Texas Math Mundo audience, we have a treat in store for us today. We have 7-time UIL academic state champion, Dr. Hilario Alvarado III in the house. The years were 1991 through 1993. Dr. Hilario Alvarado III is a proud San Ysidro High School Tiger. His story right ahead. Let me take a moment and ask that if you enjoy this content, please hit the subscription button and the notification bell, smash that like button, and leave a comment below. It really helps me out with YouTube's algorithm, and let's spread this kind of content to everybody. Hopefully we can spread it out. Again, Dr. Hilario Alvarado III, 7-time UIL state champion, right ahead. My name is Saul Cantu, and this is Texas Math Mundo. Are we in store for a real treat today? We have a 7-time UIL academic state champion in the house. In 1991, he was the number sense and calculator state champion. In 1992, he was number sense and calculator state champion. And in 1993, he was the number sense, calculator, and mathematics state champion from Class 1A. A proud San Ysidro High School Tiger, Dr. Hilario Alvarado. Welcome, Mr. Hilario Alvarado.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Mr. Cantu. It was it's an honor. I really appreciate you tracking me down and contacting me because it's been a long time since I talked about UIL math, which is a big part of my life from 5th grade to 12th grade. And so I want to thank you for reaching out to me, and I want to thank you for what you're doing because being on YouTube and seeing all these videos, all these interviews, and all these tips you're putting out there is great. And so I want to thank you for doing that. I know it takes time, and that's really great what you're doing.
Hey, it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. And to tell you the truth, there's some distance between the early 90s and now. So I'm very curious, and I'm looking very forward to the insight and the stories you'll share with us today. So I'm so happy to have you here, man.
Just a few years, not many.
Not many. That's funny. Hey, so let's start off by asking, how are you doing, man? How are you dealing with that pandemic? How's it going?
We're doing well. It has been a long 2 years. I'm a physician. I'm family medicine trained. I came after high school, went to SMU in Dallas. From there, I went to medical school in Houston at Baylor College of Medicine, and then came here for family medicine residency. And that's how I ended up in San Antonio and stayed here and made my home here. Met my wife here. And so since I got out of residency, I've been practicing family medicine trained, but I do urgent care medicine. So we've been right in the middle of the pandemic. It's been a long 2 years. The waves have been tough. We do a tremendous amount of testing. Uh, we've done a lot of vaccinating, since the vaccine's been out. But there's during the waves, it's been really busy, pretty stressful. But we've been blessed. We're healthy. I've got two boys, 13 and 11, and we've all stayed healthy. My wife has stayed healthy. She's a nurse, and so thankfully we've been good. And so we're just trying to hopefully now this wave is down, it has come down. Hopefully it'll stay this way, and hopefully it'll become more endemic rather than in a pandemic. And hopefully we can kind of get back. Everyone can kind of get back to their normal lives, and especially for the kids. Hopefully they can, get back to their normal school life. I know, one thing during the pandemic, I thought about, the kids that weren't able to compete like in UIL math at the, district, regional, and state meets. And I just kind of put myself in their shoes, and I'm like, man, that would have been just heartbreaking. It would have been heartbreaking not to compete and to do all that. So I really thought about them quite a bit. Those juniors and seniors. The last couple of years. That's been really difficult. But but thankfully we're doing well, and yeah, we're blessed.
Hey, Doctor Hilario Alvarado III. That's so impressive, man. I'm sure the work you do, and your wife is a nurse. Wow, that Alvarado family is really contributing. That's really fascinating to me, and I applaud that. I applaud the work you all do on a daily basis, man.
Thank you. All my family are educators. My parents, retired educators. My sister, have 6 aunts and uncles that are educators, are retired now. And so I always tell my sister, because my sister works, she's an assistant superintendent now down in the valley at San Benito High School, San Benito ISD, and she works a ton. And so I always tell them, education and healthcare to me are the two most noble professions. And so I give all props to educators. I mean, y'all put a lot of effort, a lot of time, more time than y'all are paid for, and y'all do it because y'all love kids. And so I have a lot of love for educators.
Hey, thank you for that shout out. And you bring I'm glad that you mentioned that missing. We missed out on the 2020 school year for UIL.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember the early 80s, they had the boycotts of the Olympics. And I thought how tragic, all these people work so hard, years of their life, they work so hard, and then not to get the opportunity to showcase their talents. And in 2020 that happened for UIL.
Yeah, I mean, from 5th grade on, UIL math was huge for me, and the goal was always, to be a state champion from when I was young. So to not be able to see that out as a senior would have been just heartbreaking. It would have been tough. So my heart goes out to those students. But at the end of the day, it's the journey, right? And it's not necessarily the end product. I mean, when we're in there, of course, we wanted to win. We wanted to get first. We wanted to win the state championships. But when you look back at it, it's the journey and what do you get out of that. And so hopefully they still got a lot out of it.
So we're going to dive deep into your UIL story. But before we get started, I do want to ask, when you're not busy with your family and work, which I'm sure takes almost all your time, what hobbies and interests do you have?
Yeah, I got a lot of them. My wife always wants me to cut down on them. But so when I met my wife, she was a marathon runner. She had run cross country in college, and she after graduating from college, she went to marathon running. So I met her, and she was running marathons, and of course I wanted to run with her, impress her. And so I started running marathons, and I always had a little bit of endurance, in high school. I did run track, and I ran the 1 mile, 2 mile. And so I had a little bit of endurance. And so I started running with her, and probably 3 months after I met her, I ran a half marathon. A couple of months later, ran a full marathon. And her and I would just run a lot. And we spent a lot of time running after work. And so
that's liked her if you're willing to run 26.2 miles. Let me tell you.
It was a lot of time to spend together. There's a lot of times we'd work and get out late and we'd go out for a 4 or 5 mile run. It was a good way to kind of unwind and spend time together and talk. And so running was huge. And we ran a lot of marathons all over the nation. And so that was a really big part. One quick story there. So we were a big goal of a lot of marathon runners is that 4 hour goal, and we did that, and we kind of settled into that, and we felt because we were kind of mid pack to back to the pack runners, average runners, and we enjoyed it. We enjoyed the competition. We would run a lot of different races, and so after running the marathons, we kind of wanted to push the envelope a little bit more, and we kind of got into trail running and ultra marathons, which is past the 26 a mile distance. And so we started running 50-mile races, and a lot of that is done in trails and in parks, and then in ultras, the kind of the granddaddy of ultras is the 100-mile race. And we even ran a couple of those. And so the interesting thing about as we ran farther, the 26 miles then seemed shorter, right? It was all mental. And so then our marathon times got a little faster, and we got a little stronger in the marathon, and so in 2012, my wife qualified at the Houston Marathon there in Houston. She qualified for Boston Marathon. Boston Marathon is one of the few marathons you have to qualify with a time. And so we ran together. I kind of helped her, paced her that year, and she qualified for Boston, which was a huge goal of ours. And so the year after that, in Austin, I qualified for Boston. At my age, the qualifying time was 3 hours and 10 minutes, and I ran a 3:09:09. And so that was just a real huge accomplishment. The reason I bring this up is because when she qualified in 2012, she qualified for the 2013 Boston Marathon, which is run in April. I qualified early 2013, so I qualified for the 2014. So I went with her to the 2013 Boston Marathon. And I don't know if you recall, that was the year of the bombing at the marathon, the bombing. And so we were there, and thank God my wife had a good race. And so she actually finished about 45 minutes before the bombs went off. And I was there with my boys, my sister-in-law. She had just kind of met up with us when the bombs went off. And so we were close. Chaos ensued. We were able to get out of there, thankfully, grab a taxi, get out of there. And so yeah, that was really interesting being there. Yeah. And so what happened was then in 2014, the running community really got ignited and wanted to come together. And so everybody wanted to run the 2014 Boston Marathon, which I had qualified for. And because so many people wanted to run, it got cut off at 1:37 under your time. And I was only 51 seconds under my time. So I never got to run it. And so it's kind of a little regret of mine that I never got to run the Boston Marathon. I qualified for it, but didn't get to run it that year. And then after that, I took another crack at the time, didn't make it. And so I still haven't got there. Still have some ideas to want to try to qualify again. But again, that was, 8 years ago, and about 30 pounds ago. So I would definitely need to put the work in. But so we did that. We did a lot of running for many, many years, and then again the ultra marathons did 200-mile runs, and so that was a big part of our lives there for a while.
Dr. Hilario Alvarado III, you don't do things small, do you? First of all, you're a doctor, 7-time UIL state champion, and an ultra marathoner. You don't do things small, do you?
No, I mean, no. I'm always trying to push the envelope, right? Try to go, a little farther, a little tougher. And so, yeah, that was a big part of what we do. We kind of, cut back a little bit from that the last couple of years. My boys are getting a little bit older. They, require some more attention. They're getting, becoming more active in their own activities, and I want to give them their time because running, sometimes you're out 3, 4, 5 hours on a Saturday or Sunday, training, and the training can be tough. So that's a big part. I still do some running more just to kind of try to keep healthy and then about 5 years ago I started doing martial arts. I have a good friend that owns a martial arts school, and so I had always wanted to do that since I was young. But when you grow up in San Ysidro, a real small town, you don't have those you don't have those abilities to do those kinds of things. And so about 5 years ago I started, and it's a combination of like taekwondo with some boxing and jiu-jitsu, and was doing great. And then the pandemic hit, and we just kind of stopped, just because with martial arts sparring, you're right face to face with each other, and we're kind of scared about that. Plus, with my work, I was seeing so many COVID patients that at any point, I could become I could be infected, and I didn't want to pass that on to somebody else. So for the past couple of years, we've kind of stopped. And I say we because my son and I kind of also do it for my son that way, because I wanted him to do some martial arts, my older son. Okay. And so we've kind of gotten away from that, but definitely still something I want to get back at. I want to hopefully, I have about 3 more levels to get my black belt, and so that's definitely something that I want to do the next few years, and hopefully, if the pandemic stays nice and quiet right now, get back in the next few months. I'm a big sports fan. I love my Cowboys. I know you're a Texans fan. Oh my God. But hey, Tom Landry is from the Valley, and so he was huge when I was young. I started, being a Cowboy fan, and I love my Cowboys. It's been a long 25 years. The last 25 years have been tough, but I love my Cowboys. The other team I love is the Dodgers. I love my Dodgers. When I was young in San Ysidro, we had a small little league. We had 4 teams: the Dodgers, Yankees, Astros, and Cardinals. And I was always in the Dodgers, so I became a big Dodgers fan and started following them. And I used to root for the Astros a little bit. During the summers, we take a trip to Houston and usually would go to a game or two. But after the World Series a few years and everything that happened between the Astros and Dodgers, I can't really root for them anymore. But all my family and friends are Astros fans, and so I'm a huge Dodgers fan. I watch a little bit of basketball. I used to love basketball. I played basketball in middle school and high school, but I don't follow as much basketball anymore.
Show me some Rockets love. Come on, show me some Rockets love. Come on.
Have some respect. I used to be a Celtics fan back in the day with Larry Bird growing up, and then I was more of a Duke fan. I had spent a summer at Duke between my 7th and 8th grade year, so that summer tip program. And so I became a real big Duke fan. That's when Duke had Leitner and Bobby Hurley and all those great teams. And then basketball was huge for me in high school. I loved playing basketball. And so and then when I moved down to here, San Antonio, I became a Spurs fan. But definitely, Olajuwon and Drexler and those guys were amazing. So the Rockets had a good run there for a few years. And so, followed just a ton of sports, but I like to dabble a lot in different things. I always like to kind of learn new things. And nowadays with YouTube and with the internet, you can find lessons, you can find all these videos to teach yourself stuff. So chess, I had never played chess before. And so I started playing some chess and started learning that, teaching myself that. And now my 13-year-old son started playing a lot of chess, and he just competed in a tournament last week and won his division. So that was kind of funny. And it was fun because the chess tournament, it reminded me a lot of a UIL tournament. All the parents were there, and the kids would go compete, and they'd come back, and all the parents were waiting for the final results. And it reminded me a lot of the old UIL tournament.
Chess, sports, such wholesome karate. Martial arts.
And so I play a little guitar. I picked up the guitar when I was in residency here in San Antonio and played a little bit and then kind of put it away. And then again, my 13-year-old son a few years ago picked it up, and he's actually become a fairly serious guitarist, more of the electrical guitars. I guess I say serious, but I guess as serious as a 13-year-old can be. But he has to music picked up playing the bass guitar, and that kind of again on the internet and got these lessons and kind of just teaching myself. So definitely enjoy doing that. And then I guess the last thing, I guess the pandemic, and just kind of wanted to do our own little thing. We've always enjoyed the outdoors. And so we bought an RV trailer, and that is also just a whole nother world. RVing is just a whole nother world. But again, you YouTube all these things and they'll teach you everything. And there's so many videos out there for people to learn from. And YouTube is just amazing. And so we're doing some RVing. We have RV when we can. Of course, our boys are a little busy and sometimes on the weekends, so we can't go out as often as we like. But we enjoy RVing and going to the outdoors, the state parks. And I heard on your interview with Mr. Larry White, who I definitely have a little bit of history with, who's just wonderful. He does a little bit of that. So I told myself I needed to contact him. Maybe I can meet up with him at a state park one of these days, one of these weekends, and catch up with him.
And he's good people.
Oh, he's amazing. He's amazing. I got a few stories about him. He's just an awesome gentleman. So yeah, lots of hobbies.
All right, Dr. Hilario Alvarado III. Had a little internet issue, but we're back at it. Interesting and fascinating hobbies. They look great, and the fact that you can share with some of them with your son is awesome.
Yeah, my son and my wife. For sure. It's family thing for sure.
Awesome,
my boys and my wife. Yeah.
I do want to get to. Your cultural heritage, where you're born and raised, stuff like that. So, what's your cultural heritage?
Yeah, so I was born in Edinburgh, Texas, down in the valley, but raised in San Ysidro all my life. My parents are both from San Ysidro. Were my grandparents, my grandfather, the Alvarado family, kind of settled there in San Ysidro, but their parents, I believe, were from Mexico, and so Mexican American. But we have a big Alvarado family there in San Ysidro, and so both my parents went to school there, left, got educated, came back, and were educators there at the school for 30 plus years.
Wow!
And so that's my two sisters and myself were both raised there, and so San Ysidro is definitely near and dear, to our hearts.
It's home, or it was home, yeah.
Yeah, definitely home. Yeah, for sure. My mom still lives there, and so we visit, and it's changed a little bit, but not too much. And so love San Ysidro.
Hey, when did you realize that you have a talent for mathematics?
So, it was probably. It was more my parents, they probably saw, UIL is really big. Well, at least was really big in San Ysidro during those years. San Ysidro, it's a real, obviously a real small town. There was 24 students in my graduating class. One interesting thing of those 24, there's 3 of us were state champs in UIL, 3 of us. And so 24, but UIL was huge for, we really put a lot of emphasis on it. As second grade, we would start and, storytelling. And then shortly after that, spelling, I think was 3rd or 4th grade. And so during that time, I guess my parents, saw that, I had a gift, and I enjoyed math a lot. And so, but, back then there was no number sense or math for 4th graders. It would start at middle school, 6th grade. And there's only one test, now they have that 4th and 5th grade test, And so, in 4th grade, my dad started me. My dad had experience in number sense. He had competed in number sense in high school in the 60s, wow. Early 60s. And so, number sense has been around a long time.
Did you compete for San Ysidro?
Yeah, definitely. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. They're both went to school there. And so, when he saw that, I had, I guess a gift for math and I enjoyed it. He tried starting me in fourth grade, but again, that was with the junior high test. And so he tells me, like, after about a week or two, he told my mom, no, he's just not ready yet. And so come fifth grade, the following year, he started me again, and I kind of really kind of took to it. And I actually have he wrote me out in this notebook. This is back, so I was in fifth grade, and he wrote in this red notebook, and he started writing all these shortcuts.
Wow.
And so, like, yeah, for instance, the first one was how to add numbers in consecutive series, and adding consecutive evens, adding consecutive odds. And so, all the shortcuts are right here that he was teaching me as a fifth grader.
Wow.
And you can see here the kind of the table of contents.
Wow.
It's just all the different shortcuts, multiplying times 11, multiplying times 25,
wow.
50, 75, all the different shortcuts. And so as a fifth grader, so he started me, and I picked it up. I was picking it up pretty good, I recall, and I was enjoying it. And I remember the junior high, the middle school number sense coach was telling him, hey, let's take him to a UIL meet. And my dad was like, no, he's not ready yet. I'm still working with him. He's still not quite ready. And so then the spring came, and my fifth grade year. And actually it was interesting, on this notebook at the very end, it has some of my results. Wow. And so my first number sense meet was January 18th, 1986. So it was, the beginning of the spring. As a fifth grader, I competed with the seventh graders at Sherryland, and I scored a 161. 161 as a fifth grader. I came out seventh place, and I remember that meet. It was the first time I competed in it, and it just lit a fire under me. I loved it. I loved the competition. I loved the math. I loved the shortcuts, and it just lit a fire. And so, 1 week later, it's on here. 1 week later, I went to PSJA and again competed with the seventh graders, and I scored a 213. So I jumped up about 50 points, came out fourth.
Wow.
And then about 3 weeks later in McAllen with the sixth graders, I was a fifth grader, I scored a 281.
Wow.
And finished first in the sixth against the sixth graders. And so in a matter of about a month, I had increased about 120 points. The following week, Los Fresnos came out first again, Falfurrias first, and then we stopped right there because the rest was history. It was it took off from there. Number 7, it was a big part after that, and I was really into it. Yeah, so that's kind of my first beginnings. Well, my dad just started me.
Couple of things. First of all, I applaud your dad, man. What a dad, right? What a dad. And second,
oh yeah, no, definitely.
And second, it's true. There's no substitute for going to an actual tournament. That will light a fire in you. That will motivate you. Those tournaments are awesome.
Yeah, the practices were fun, and also props to my mom. My mom would drive me to a lot of the tournaments as well, and she was always there. They were always there. Every single Saturday I competed, they were always there. And the practices were fun, and I remember just kind of just starting it and taking it off, and it just kind of opened a new world for me. And then, but yeah, once you get to the competition, and of course, winning at that point, at that time, you just wanted to win, and when you win, it just it just lit a big fire in me. And so that was the first with number sense, and so then. As a sixth grader, started getting me into calculator, and so my dad, that was kind of a newer event, and so he didn't have any experience with that, and so the teacher, the coach there at San Ysidro, kind of helped me a little bit, and then my dad got one of the high school students. My parents got one of the high school students, Mel Garza. help me a little bit. He was a state champ there at San Ysidro as well, and
Really?
in number sense, I think he competed in calculator. I'm not sure. He won state and was second and third a few times,
What was his
and
name
so he
again?
kind of got me started.
What was his name?
Onel Garza. Onel Garza.
Okay.
Onel Garza. And so he kind of got me started in calculator because like I said, my dad didn't have much experience in that. And so, so kind of started with calculator as a sixth grader. And then my parents, at that point, Ariel Mendiola, who you interviewed several months ago, he was the top during that time. That was in 87. And so he had just won some state championships, and I think he was a senior at that time. So my parents approached him, my dad approached him and asked him if he would tutor me in calculator.
Really?
And yes, and thankfully he accepted. Of course, I'm sure that my parents would pay him a little bit tutoring, but I think he also did it just because he loved it and he wanted to kind of pass it on to me. And I was very fortunate because he was from La Jolla, I was from San Ysidro. I mean, he didn't have to do that, right?
Yeah.
I wasn't in his school system, but he took me under his wing. I mean, I remember I looked up to him. He was one of my idols, and I remember we would meet up, like my parents would drive me to McAllen, and we would meet like at the McAllen library, and he would tutor me like for an hour and a half in calculator. And so really kind of took off with his help, and with their help, took off with calculator. And really learned that as a sixth grader. The fifth grader was just number sense, and then sixth grade was the number sense and calculator.
Hey, what an awesome idea that your parents contacted the local state champion and asked him to tutor you. That's awesome.
Yeah, my parents were always looking to see, okay, well, where can, how can we make things better? Where can we get you, better coaching, better tutoring?
Wow.
Because they saw that I loved it. They saw I loved it. They saw that I was willing to work hard and practice with it. And so they were willing for themselves, because from San Ysidro to McAllen, it's a 50 mile drive.
Yeah.
But they were willing to drive me down there,
Wow.
spend a couple hours, drive home. And so, Ariel was great. Ariel was wonderful, really taught me the ropes and calculator. And so I always remember him and kind of lost contact with him. And so seeing him and I listened to his whole interview with you. Yeah, it was great. He was awesome. He was a great state champ, and I got him to. He was able to help me for that 1 year before he graduated, and so that's kind of when I took off with calculator as a sixth grader.
Wow, that's a great connection. I'm glad you shared that. The connection between you and Ariel.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. That's so awesome.
Yeah, he's an awesome guy.
Can you make a shout out to your coaches and to teammates? Did you have many teammates at San Ysidro? Was it a group, or were you more a solo person?
So no, I mean UIL was huge. San Ysidro was and is. I mean, when San Ysidro is kind of out in the middle of nowhere. It's north of Rio Grande City and McAllen, about 50 miles north of McAllen, northwest of McAllen, south of Hebronville and Falfurrias, about 50 miles. So we're kind of in the middle of nowhere. And so, when you're out there, you kind of, you depend on each other, and so San Ysidro it's a real small community, and, everything kind of centered around school, and all the kids got really active in all the different school activities. So, we had good sports teams, a lot of FFA, a lot of kids raising animals, but UIL was always our biggest emphasis, and we always took pride in it. And so every event, we had a coach for every event. Starting, like I said, starting in second grade, wow. We had students competing in all the different events. We took a lot of pride in winning district. We won district every year for years and years. And so we always had a lot of kids. Very, very active, and so I was telling you about some of the students we had. In the high school, there was a big trophy case, and so in the 80s, they made a UIL Hall of Fame.
Really?
in our school. Yeah, UIL Hall of Fame. And whenever you qualified for state, you were inducted into the Hall of Fame. as a, and so at the end of the year, we'd have our awards, UIL awards banquet, all the, kids and all the parents, and they would, go over all the results, how the kids did throughout the year. And then at the end, the students that had qualified for state were inducted to the Hall of Fame. And there was a plaque, a state of Texas plaque with their names. And I remember, and it was in this big trophy case, and they had year after year after year. And those, and in San Ysidro, those were our idols. Those are the students we looked up to, because a lot of schools, they look up to the football players and the basketball players, the sports athletes, and we had some of those too. But we really looked up. I mean, UIL. I remember as an elementary student walking by that trophy case and just stopping and looking at the names and reading the names. And I was probably 4th, 5th grade, and really telling myself, I want to be in the Hall of Fame in a year. And so
the picture you paint of San Ysidro is so awesome. First of all, that they devoted all the resources to really encourage the academic pursuits of their students, that they would celebrate their champions in such a manner. I'm just getting such a great impression of San Ysidro school district right now.
One word to describe it was family. Family, literally you were family to many, but even those that you were not blood related, I mean, they were family, because, out of my graduating class of 24, probably 18 to 20 of us had started pre-kinder together. And we're together from pre-kinder to seniors. And so we were family, and it was just a family atmosphere. A lot of the teachers, like I said, my parents and others, they were from there. Left, went to school, came back, taught there. So a lot of the teachers were originally from there. The majority of the teachers had students there. So it was all about family. That the teachers were just really invested in the students. And UIL, you might get paid a little extra to be a UIL sponsor, but the amount of time you put into it is just so much more than what you get paid for. So you really have to love it, And no, they just love to see the kids succeed and do well. And so we always had a lot of students competing. And so going back to your original question, my junior high number sense coach was Mr. Manuel Sainz, another gentleman, just an awesome gentleman. He was also originally from San Ysidro, came back and taught in San Ysidro probably 40 plus years, taught math there in the middle school. And so he helped me also in number sense. And I remember one quick story about him. One Saturday morning, as a 7th grader, he was driving to a UIL meet, and we would go usually in the van. It was for us, I don't know if it was just math and science, maybe a few events. It wasn't too many events. So we went in the van. He took like 10 of us, 8 to 10 of us in the van. And it was in La Jolla, I remember. And we're pulling into early morning, we're pulling into the school, and there was a big bus, and they probably had 30 or 40 kids. And I remember one of my teammates went, wow, look at those, look how many kids they have. And Mr. Sainz, I remember this as a 7th grader, I remember so distinctly. He turns around, he goes, son, they may have quantity, but we have quality. And quality is right here in this van. And so, and that's kind of the attitude we always took in San Ysidro. We were a small 1A school, but you know what? The test is the same for everybody. Yeah. And we're always, willing and ready to compete against, McAllen, Mission, all those big schools. Hey, the test is the same for everybody. It's not like football or, basketball, where you can't compete with those bigger schools because they just have numbers on you. But, this is for the most part, an individual, event, right? And so we always took it like, hey, we can compete with the big schools, and so in that story, I always remember him telling us that, it's not the quantity, it's the quality, and we have quality right here in this band. And he was just an awesome gentleman.
Awesome. What's his name again?
Mr. Manuel Sainz. Yeah, he passed away probably a few years, probably now about 3 or 4 years ago, maybe 3 years ago or so. And yeah, he just a very passionate man. And then, I have kind of a unique. I had a lot of coaches. I was just so blessed. So probably around my 7th grade year, I was telling you some of my scores. I started kind of peaking, and I should say plateauing around 280, 290. And I would go to all these meets, and I was still doing well. I was winning a lot of these meets, but I really, my scores went up really quick, but then I kind of plateaued right at that 300 mark. And my parents befriended Mrs. Adelina Alanis, who was the coach at Mission. She coached the Mission high school team and the junior high team.
Isn't she legendary, coach?
A legendary coach. I think 2 years ago, she was honored by Mission ISD for 50 years of teaching service to the school district. I think she's still at it, as far as I know. But she was just. Find her. You do. She's amazing. She just was amazing, and so she's had so many state champs, and so. My parents, because, you go to these UIL invitational meets on Saturdays and just, you meet the same people, right? And so my parents started talking with her and kind of befriended her. And she noticed that my scores had kind of plateaued. And so she talked to my parents, and they talked, and she was willing to tutor me. And she was a number sense. She only did number sense. She didn't coach calculator. And again, she was willing to take me under her wing. So, and again, she was Mission High School, Mission ISD. She didn't have to do that. I was from San Ysidro, and I was just so blessed that she was willing for me to join her team. And so I would actually practice with them. And her students were great as well, because, on Saturdays, I competed against them. Now, most of the time, the different invitationals, they would kind of break down 3A and below, and we would have our own division. And then like the 4As and 5As would have their own division. So we didn't compete for the same trophies, but we still kind of competed with the scores and stuff. But even then, her students were just so open for me to kind of join them. And I still remember my mom taking me after school, and we drive 45 miles, and then I would join them for their practice, and she was amazing. There's a lot of coaches can take you like to 280, 290, 300, and then there's some coaches that just know how to take you to that next level. And so under her, I went from a 290 student to a 350 student. Wow. I mean, she just took me to that extra level. She's just amazing. She's just so passionate, fierce, just very competitive, wanted to win. And for some reason, she was willing to take me under her wing and for me to be part of her team. And I was just so blessed. And I wouldn't have accomplished everything that I did without her. And so a little part of me is actually a Mission Eagle. I'm definitely San Ysidro Tiger, but a little part of me was a Mission Eagle because of what she did and what all her students did for me.
So I did want to ask about rivalries, like maybe even at the state level, individuals, schools. Any notable rivalries for you in those days?
So the first part of the year is all about the invitationals, right? The fall, and during those years, starting, 6th grade and above, and then high school, I mean, and mostly, especially in high school, it was every single Saturday. I mean, it was every single Saturday morning, there was a meet somewhere. And if there was not a meet in the Valley, my parents would find one in San Antonio and would drive me to San Antonio by myself with just my parents and me, and they would enter me, and I competed in numerous invitationals here in San Antonio. And so it was every single Saturday. And so the interesting thing about that is, being in San Ysidro, you're at least an hour away from civilization, basically, And so, to get to a meet on a Saturday morning when number sense usually starts at 8:00, number sense is always the first contest, right? So you have to be there by 7:30. So we're leaving at 6:30 from San Ysidro at the latest 6:30, usually around 6. And then a lot of times we were all involved in, either band for the football games, or then I was in basketball. And so then your Friday nights were really late. A lot of times, if it wasn't a home game, it was an away game. And again, we had to drive an hour and a half, 2 hours to a game. So let's say a football game in the fall, a game would end at 10 o'clock, 9:30, 10. Then we have to drive home. We'd be in the bus, takes a good 2-hour drive. We'd be home at midnight. By the time you get home and get in bed, at least 1 o'clock, then we were up by 5:30 to get to the UIL meet. But we did it. We did it every single, Saturday morning. I mean, we just I love UIL. So, the fall was the invitationals. And so, I wouldn't call it necessarily rivalries, because, we really got along really, really well with all. I mean, we saw each other every single Saturday, the different schools. And so for the most part, we got along. We wanted to beat each other, don't get me wrong. But we all got along well. So I don't necessarily see it as a rivalry. I mean, there was just, competition, right? So in those years, it was Mission, and many of those Mission, that the team I actually practiced with a big part of the year, but they had some great teams. Mac High and McAllen High, they had the Mac High, the Wizards. Another one, they had a teacher, Mr. Leo Ramirez, and he's another one that you should really try to interview. Another legend of math, UIL math. So
Leo Ramirez, Mac High Wizards.
Yeah, I think he's living around Austin area nowadays. He's retired, of course, but he also had a great team. And all these teams, we'd show up with their shirts, with their logos, and La Jolla also, Ariel, his school, and after he left, they had some pretty good teams as well. So they were also really competitive. And so we're all competitive now. Like I told you earlier, I usually compete in the 3A and below, and a lot of the competition was in the 5As, the 4A and 5As. But so, we didn't really compete for the same trophies, for the same places, but we always looked to see who the top scorer was,
Yeah, sure.
And, we would look, first off, we look to see first place. Mm-hmm. And then second of all, we look to see who has the top score, because we all wanted to be the top scorer at the meet, that's what was important. So, but, it was all friendly competition. We really respected each other and enjoyed the competition. And so, yeah, during the fall, it was those main schools, the Mission and McAllen, a little bit of La Jolla. I know the years after me, PSJ had some strong schools with Oscar, who you interviewed. Edinburgh North had some good teams, Santa Rosa. But during my years, it was mostly, as far as I remember, it was me and then Mac High, Mission, and La Jolla. And then, so then the turn of the, going to the spring, of course, then that changes into the TMSCA, which started, I think that started around when I was maybe a 7th or 8th grader, maybe at 89, 90, around that time. TMSCA, that's when TMSCA got put together and they started their state meet. I don't know if you recall what year they started, but it was around that time.
I think the organization itself might have started in 1980, but I don't know about the state meets.
Yeah, I want to say the state meets here at UTSA started in the late 80s. I may be wrong there, but I remember, that became really big, the state meet here at UTSA. And so as we went back after the new year in the spring, then it became more of the TMSCA and your level, your class, your 1A, and then of course the district, regional, and state. And for me, it was always Sterling City, Mr. White, Mr. White and his team. Yeah, and again, I never felt like we were rivals because we all got along. I mean, at the end of the competitions at state, one of the first ones to always come and congratulate me or give me a hug was Mr. White. He was amazing. And
he's a class act. Class act.
just so passionate and just loved math and kids and was just in it for the right reasons. And but they had some great teams. They had some really good teams every year. So it was always, I know when the new year started and it was spring, okay, now it's all right, who's in 1A and who's doing what? And we'd wait for those TMSCA newspapers and kind of catch up on all the scores and see who's doing what and scoring. And then TMSCA state meet was nice because you kind of had a good idea of who was there and who was going to be there at state. And yeah, Sterling City was great. Mr. White's son, LD, was my age. And so we were at the same level. So we compete against each other a lot. A year below us was Amy Schrader, who won state after the year after my senior year. She was a year below us. As a senior, she won number sense and calculator. And I believe she was Mr. White's first individual state champ.
Wow.
They had some team state champions, but I believe she was the first individual state champ. So yeah, it was all about Sterling City, and when in order to be great, you always have to have somebody there pushing you. Of course, a lot of it comes from within, yourself and wanting to be as good as you can. And like I said, a lot of times it was also kind of just comparing yourself to the 4A and 5As and the scores, because everyone's taking the same test. So you're able to compare yourself. But of course, the goal was to win the state championship, right? And I knew it was Sterling City for the most part. My freshman year, Plains High School had a really, really good team. And that's who I actually came out. I came out second as a freshman in number sense. And so, so TMSCA as a freshman, I really worked really hard. So I finished up middle school, did really well. And of course, the jump from middle school to high school is pretty significant jump as far as number sense goes, and calculator as well. But for me, it was always about number sense. Number sense was my favorite out of the three. And I enjoyed calculator, but I always felt, again, number sense was kind of the granddaddy of the events. It was the 10-minute, the speed. It was all mental mathematics. I mean, to me, it was all about number sense. And
beautiful.
I love it. I love it. And so the jump from the middle school test, the high school test is a pretty significant jump. And so I remember after my 8th grade year, probably took maybe a month off at the most. And starting in late June, July, just started hitting that high school test. And I remember practicing a lot with the Mission High School team that summer, and really trying to get familiar with the high school test. And so, but by September, October of my freshman year, I was up there already over 300, doing really well on that test. And so I had a really good freshman year. One of my goals as in UIL was to win the state championship 4 years in a row in number sense, especially. I wanted to win, be a state champ 4 years in a row. And so as a freshman, spring, we go to TMSCA, and I had the top score in 1A by 30 or 40 points. Wow. Over the senior from Plains. Plains is a small town up in North Texas, up there by the by the Panhandle area, and I had the top score there, so I felt confident with my chances at state. And I remember very distinctly, because your successes are fun, and that's the end goal, right? But your failures, and I say a failure, and it really at the moment it felt like a failure, but of course when you look at it, it's all success and experience, and it was just amazing. It's never a failure, but at the time it felt like a failure. So I went to state, and I was pretty confident, trying not to be overconfident, of course, and it was a fairly easy test. And so there was a lot of top scorers, and I made a couple of careless mistakes and got second by probably by 9 points. I think I scored a 346.
Wow.
First place was he scored a 355. maybe it was 364, 355, one way or another. It was by one problem.
Wow.
And I made a couple of I choked, made a couple of careless mistakes on some easy problems. I think on that first column on the left, I missed like 2 of those. And it was crushing. It was heartbreaking as a freshman. I came out, I think, 4th in calculator that year, so didn't place in calculator. So it was crushing because I had a great freshman year, and it just came up a little short, But after a few days, you kind of get over the initial heartbreak of not winning. It just lit the fire even more, And I told myself that wasn't going to happen again. And so just really worked really hard that summer again for my sophomore year. And I came back, and again, it was, then it was Sterling City having some really good teams and some really good individuals. And so, they're always the ones to push me because I knew coming February, March, it's like, okay, I got to put in the work because I know Sterling City is putting in the work. And there was a few other schools as well, but Sterling City was always the one. And, it's when that Thursday night, after maybe basketball practice, after homework, it's late. It's like, you know what? I still haven't taken a number sense test. You got to take a number sense test. You got to practice because you know what? They're practicing, and that's at least what I told myself, I have to, you have to, raise the level. And so, they were always the ones I thought about. They were always the ones that pushed me and just helped me stay on top of my game.
So, only one person can win it, right? And 7 times you won it. You were at the top of the mountain. And so that's interesting coming after your losses your freshman year. You know where I'm coming from? But that's very interesting. How does it feel? How do you feel?
You remember the losses more than the wins. A lot of the professional athletes say the same thing, but it's true. It's true. I don't really remember the sophomore, junior, and senior year. It's all kind of a blur. But you know what? That freshman year, when I found out, I still remember the moment I found out I came in second. I still remember it so clearly. And
wow.
so. You remember the losses more than the wins, but that's part of it, and that's part of what UIL teaches you.
Yes.
And what helps you later on in life, not only how to deal with the successes, but how to deal with the failures when things don't go just, exactly right. And so I still remember that as a freshman year, but I missed that goal by one problem of not being a 4-time state champion in number sense, but hey, it's all good. I'm really proud of all the other ones.
Dr. Hilario Alvarado III, 7-time UIL state champion. You know what I love talking. I feel your passion. I'm feeling your passion as you're talking. I love it. There's passion.
I'll tell you. Yeah, no, there was a ton of passion. Hey, I gave it all I had. It was. I played basketball and I loved basketball in high school, and so for my life in high school, I remember in junior high and high school it was basketball and it was UIL math, and UIL math number 1, basketball number 2. And so those were my passions, and so no, I loved it, but I tell you also, what makes me even more proud of the individual state champions was the team championships. I won as a sophomore, we won the number sense team. Wow. And so just having me with 2 other teammates and seeing them win and get a gold medal, that was really cool. And then as a junior, we won the calculator team. And so again, and that was 2 different teammates. So that was cool to kind of see them.
Drop some names on us.
Let's see. Sophomore year was David Garcia, who is Mike Garcia's uncle.
Oh, really?
Mike Garcia, who you just interviewed. Yeah, his uncle, one of his uncles, was in that team, and also Nathan Talent was a freshman. I was a sophomore. Nathan Talent was a freshman. and David Garcia was a senior, and that was my team. And the only way I remember this is I went through the UIL archives after you contacted me, and I tried to remind myself, okay, who's all of these names, and I try to remind myself. Of course, I remember them clearly, but yeah. And then as a junior, the calculator team championship, it was Felipe Olivares and I'm blanking on the name. I saw it on the UIL archive list, but I'm blanking on the name. It was a girl, and so those team championships are even more. Those are the ones I'm most proud of. And then one more, as a sophomore in 1991 was the first year that UIL crowned a school champion, a school UIL champion. So all the events, sweepstakes, correct. So 1991, they never had done this, but 1991 was the first year they started that.
Okay.
And on the first year, San Ysidro, we won the 1A state championship. And it's the only team state championship that San Ysidro has ever won in any type of athletics, UIL. And so I remember those triangle trophies, those big triangle trophies. And that's one of the ones that I'm most proud of as a sophomore. And we had, I think I still remember that picture of all of us. There was probably about 9 or 10 of us that went to state that year.
I have a question. If I walked the halls of San Ysidro High School, that big old triangle sweepstakes trophy, would it be visible?
I sure hope so, but I don't know. I mean, to me, it should be right in front of everything else, right?
I agree.
And I know for those few years after it was, and again, we had the we had the UIL Hall of Fame and all that, and I know that state championship trophy was right there, right in front of all those names, and but the school, it's still at the same spot, but it got renovated. They, of course, I mean, it was, it's been around a long time, so it got renovated, and things got shifted around. So, I haven't been to the school. My cousin is the superintendent right now.
Wow.
And he's been there for many years. He was the principal and then superintendent for the last several years. And so I went back during when I was in residency. So I had finished medical school in 2001. I came here for residency in San Antonio. And so in 2002, they invited me to be the guest speaker at the commencement.
Wow.
At the end of the year commencement, I was the guest speaker there. And so I went back to the school. My cousin's the principal at that time, and he asked me to, and he invited me to go. And so I was the commencement speaker. And so things had changed a little bit, of course. And so that's really the only time I had been back. I haven't really been back to the school. I've been back to the town, to visit my mother there. But I haven't really been to the school after that. And so that was an honor. The other thing I'm really proud of is I'm the first, as far as I know, the first San Ysidro alum to graduate medical school ever.
Wow.
Yeah, ever. And so that was a big honor. They had me back as a speaker. I know a couple years after me, there was someone else who graduated from medical school. And so, hopefully I opened the doors, to try to teach these kids, hey, we can do it. We come from this little community, this little ranch community, but you know what? We can do it. If you put your heart into it, you can accomplish anything you want to do in UIL, but more importantly in life. And so that's one of the things I'm just really proud of is being the first physician from San Ysidro ever, and hopefully paving the way for others after me.
Awesome.
But
just like you
hopefully that trophy's there.
People, just like you looked up at those Hall of Fame names, I'm sure generations after you looked up to you.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, that was really big for me. I remember seeing all those names and looking at all those awards and plaques, and yeah, that was really helped me, really drive me to what.
Couple of questions. Where do you keep those gold medals today? All those 7 gold medals and the team ones too.
So every year at the end of the school year, my parents would have one of the students, one of the FFA students, build me a little trophy, a case for the medals. And so we'd put the district medals, the regional medals, and the state medals. And so we had 4 cases of medals, one for every year.
Wow.
And I left for college and medical school, and after medical school, once I settled in San Antonio and we built our house, my mom was always on me. Hey, take your stuff, take your medals with you. And so, so finally, one of the times, we brought all the medals up, but there were 4 cases, and really don't have room for 4 big cases. So we kind of took them apart. We kind of put away the district and regional medals, and then my wife had the state medals reframed, and I'm going to show you here. I'm in my home office right now, and yeah, I'm going to show you here. So here are the medals. Let me
look at
turn
that.
off the yeah. So there are my, let's see. So 3 number sense goals, 3 calculator goals, and then 1 math gold individual, and then 1 number sense team, 1 number sense calculator gold, and then this was the silver for freshmen number sense. That was my second place, and then a bronze, and I believe the bronze is as a junior 1992 was the first year of mathematics.
Yeah. And
if you go to the UIL archives in 1992, they only rank the math team, and then in 1993 they have the individuals as well. But I definitely recall, and really the bronze, it would only make sense that it was from math. And so I'm pretty sure as a junior in 1992, they also had math individual. And so that was a 3rd place in mathematics as a junior. Wow. And so, so my wife had them put in this really beautiful frame here in our office. And so they're in the corner, and they're obviously were really, really important, and we have them in a nice little frame.
Your wife did good. Your wife did good, man.
Yeah, she loves to do that kind of stuff. And so, So they're here with us. They're here with us for sure.
Hey, I want to ask about the role, if any, that UIL had on your college and career path. Did it help you?
Oh yeah, no doubt, right? So, the knowledge you get from it is great, right? But I didn't end up going into a mathematics field. I started at SMU as an electrical engineering major.
Wow.
And specifically also biomedical engineering, because, of course, engineering, because I had the math background, and that seemed like the most natural progression. But I also kind of had an idea of maybe wanting to become a physician, wanting to go to medical school. So I started as a biomedical engineering major there at SMU. And I did really good the first two semesters in my electrical engineering classes, but I just couldn't see myself doing 3 more years of engineering. It just wasn't for me. I mean, I did really good. I got A's in them, but it just wasn't really enjoyable. And then the summer after my freshman year at SMU, I went back home and I worked with some physicians back home in Rio Grande City. And there are family physicians down there, and they did everything. They did surgeries, they delivered babies, and I had that experience. And I would round with them in the morning. I would help them in surgeries. I would help them in deliveries. And right there, I decided that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to become a physician. And so starting my sophomore year, I switched my majors to biochemistry. And the rest is history. Did well, and thankfully got into medical school. But so, the math part, I mean, yes, the knowledge helps. And, to this day, I you see numbers, or helping my boys in their math classes. And I still try to do as much mental math as possible. but it's more than just that, right? And actually, the more important parts is the experiences. The journeys, the things you learn. It's like we talked about earlier, how to deal with successes, how to deal with failures when things don't go right. How to work hard, and if there's a goal, how to put yourself, how to dedicate yourself and to accomplish something. I mean, that was probably the biggest thing that it taught me, just the work ethic, and so that's where I think UIL how to deal with stressful situations, as a medical student and now as a physician. I mean, we're in stressful situations a lot of times and trying to make decisions. And so, but that started when I was in UIL, those number sense, contests, there's 10 minutes, everyone's got the butterflies, no matter how many times you did it. Amy, I remember as a senior and still competing, and you still get those butterflies before every contest, even if it was the one in early October, and because, it was important and you wanted to win and you wanted to do the best you could.
Absolutely.
But so learning how to deal with stressful situations, learning how to meet other people from different schools and relationships you have with other folks and how to talk to others. So to me, that's kind of where UIL kind of helps so much. It definitely made me a better student, made me a better math student. And I actually had I graduated with a math minor from SMU and did a lot of math just because I enjoyed it. I knew I was never going to use it, but I enjoyed it so much. And so, yeah, the knowledge, it helped, but it was more the other stuff, all the other outside just life stuff that it just helps so much.
Sure. So here's what I'd like you to do for me. I'd like you to give some advice to any youngsters that come across this interview. 7-time UIL state champion. That's very impressive, right? And so they're listening to you. Just as if those guys in the Hall of Fame had a chance to speak to you, I'm giving you a chance to speak to future generations. What would you like to tell them?
Yeah, I think the first thing, you just got to participate, right? Get in there, jump in, participate, whatever event, seems interesting or whatever, whatever you want to become a better student at, and just participate, get yourself involved. Yes, of course, it's great to win and be successful. But at the end of the day, no one remembers. I mean, the victories, yeah, they're great. But at the end of the day, it's what you learn, become a better student, become a better person. So, yeah, I would just say, look, jump in, get involved. There's a lot of different events, a lot of things to enjoy. Of course, my passion is math, right? And science and get involved in those if you can. But, the experiences that we had, the state meet was great. Like we talked about TMSA state meet, UIL state meet, winning was great. But really what you remember is the journey, right? The journey from the beginning to the end, the experiences along the way, all the different practices, week in and week out, the time you spend. I remember many times not only, practicing, but also helping my teammates and helping them with different shortcuts. And then, the Saturday mornings, us drives the different invitationals, the different meets, many times we drive and stay overnight, Corpus Christi or San Antonio. And then of course the TMSCA, I still drive past the Marriott here that's on I-10 and 410. Yeah. And I don't know if that's the host hotel still, but back then at TMSCA, that used to be the host hotel. And I remember, driving to that Marriott and all the different schools from everywhere were there. And, again, everyone had their shirts on and the experiences you had with your teammates and then meeting other folks. It just, it helps you grow as a person more than anything else, It helps you grow as a student, helps you grow as a person.
Embrace the whole experience. Embrace the whole
experience. Yeah, it's the journey, right? Yes. Our life is a big journey, and the end result, yeah, that's great, and that's obviously at the point that was the main goal, right? The championships. But when you look back at it, it's what you miss the most is the experience. A lot of the professional athletes, when they retire, what's the first thing they say? What are they going to miss? They miss the locker room and the camaraderie. None of them talk about the championships, right? It's not about really the championships. It's about the camaraderie. It's about the locker room. And that's the same thing I remember from UIL. That's what I remember the most, is all those sharing of ideas. You get the new number sense test, and there's a couple of new, we used to call them wrinkles. There's new wrinkles in the test. And the next week, that Monday afternoon or Tuesday, because practice was every single day. When if I wasn't at practice at football or basketball, then it was UIL practice, and it was okay. Hey, this is a new wrinkle of on this week on this new test. How can we break down this problem? What's the shortcut? There's got to be a shortcut. It's all about shortcuts. What's the shortcut for this problem? And it was the sharing of ideas. Practicing with Mission High School. A year ahead of me was Fernando Rivera. And if you look at the UIL archives, he was a 3-time number state champion. He won 5A as a sophomore, junior, and a senior. Absolute math genius. And that's what, Miss Alanis was just an amazing coach, but being able to practice with people like Fernando and some of the other students, I still remember there from Mission, Ricky Puig and some of the others, those are what, we were in practice. And so a lot of those practices that we had, 2 out of the 5 state champions in number sense, we were practicing together in the whole state, And so, and even in practice, it was a competition, we wanted to kind of, beat each other and stuff. So those, and I remember just kind of breaking down problems, and those are the experiences that you remember the most. And so, that's the beauty of it.
So beautiful. And that's why I did this channel. So people like you can share that beauty. So future generations can embrace that beauty. So beautiful, the picture you paint, man. So beautiful.
Yeah. And I think a couple other things, you never be afraid to work hard. A lot of people are afraid to work hard. Nothing that's worthwhile is going to be easy, in life. And so it's going to be hard, and so I would just tell kids, embrace it, never be afraid to work hard. And then the last thing I would say to your question was, a lot of people think it's what's up here, kids are told, hey, you're not smart enough, you're not able, they think it's up here. And I always tell people, it's not what you have up here, it's what you have right here.
Wow, that's great.
That's all. And that was actually the basis of my talk when I went back at the commencement, when I went back to be the speaker. That was what my talk was about, because, I left San Ysidro, went to SMU, big city, went from a town of 1,000 less and went to Dallas. And so you meet up with the best, people who are, much more brighter than you, much smarter than you, much more experienced than you. And so, but you find out very quickly, it's not about up here. It's about right here. It's who has the biggest heart, Yeah. And so I always tell people, don't be afraid to work hard and just put your heart into it, and you can compete with the best. Awesome. And you can be the best. And don't let anyone ever tell you that you can't. Don't anyone ever tell you that you're not smart enough, that no matter where you came from, if you put your heart into it, you're going to be successful, in UIL, but more importantly in life, and go to medical school, go to graduate school, whatever it is, you can do it. You can do it.
Awesome. Oh, great advice.
Thanks. Thank you.
What does the future hold for you, Dr. Hilario Alvarado III?
So right now, like I was telling you, professionally, I do urgent care work. But over the past 3 years, I've also done some research work, some clinical research. So for example, the company that I was working for, that I'm working for, and so I did this kind of as a part-time, but we were part of the Johnson & Johnson COVID vaccine research study. And so we do a lot of different research. And so I'm getting kind of to the point where I'm starting to kind of move over to more research work and less clinical work, just because I enjoy it, and also because of it's a better schedule for me. I've for the past 18 years, I've already been a physician for 18 years. Wow. I've worked a lot of nights I worked a lot of weekends, and it's been great. I love what I do. I'm passionate about being a physician. I love it. But I've had to have this opportunity where I'm going to do more research, less, in the clinic, seeing patients, and, more Monday through Friday, 8 to 4, 8 to 5, less weekends. And so hopefully have more time, to do other things. So professionally, I'm kind of moving over to doing more research and less clinical stuff. Personally, my wife is actually starting nurse practitioner school tomorrow, actually. Wow. And so just supporting her and helping her through the whole process. And then, of course, my two boys, because out of all those hobbies, everything comes second to my family, right? And so my two boys kind of, they're a seventh grader. I have a seventh grader and a fifth grader. And just kind of getting them through middle school and helping them through high school, of course, and getting them on their way. I always tell them the best part of my day is when I do math homework with them. And that's no lie. I help them with all their homework, all the different subjects. But the best part of my day is doing math homework with them.
Awesome.
And
Awesome.
yeah, I just love that. I love everything else I do, but that's the best part of my day.
Awesome. So, any parting words or final thoughts as we conclude this interview?
Yeah, I want to show you another thing. I still have my calculator. I have my calculator.
Wait, yes.
From all those. So, the HP 32S.
Wow.
The original 32S. Now I started as a sixth grader. I started with the 11C, and the 11C was awesome. I loved the 11C. The buttons were just so solidly made. It was a great calculator. But for some reason, and I don't even remember why anymore. When I was in seventh grade, we all kind of moved to the 32S, and I still have it with me, and I still use it. I think I changed the batteries once. And I still have it with me. I love it.
Does it still work?
It's been with me all those years. Oh yeah.
Really?
It's right on there.
Holy
Look at that.
Cow.
I calculated some stuff the other day. It's still on there. Oh yeah, it still works. Just change the batteries out every so often. But I think I've only changed the batteries once or twice. Wow. But
so that's the 32S.
It's been with me all the 32S.
Because after that, they had the 32S2, which was very popular for many years. Wow.
Yeah, no, this is just the 32S.
Wow.
Just the regular 32S. That's the one that we used, I think, starting my seventh grade year after the 11C. Everyone was using the 11C, and then we all kind of started using the 32S, and we used it, seventh, eighth, and then through high school, and pretty much everybody was using that. I know, of course, I'm sure it's changed now, but of course, HP, TI are usually what people use. But yeah, I still have it with me. I have this mechanical pencil that I started using as a seventh grader.
Really?
And I still have it with me as well. It kind of comes together with this calculator.
Did you win any of those state championships with that pencil?
All of them.
Really?
All of them. Just change out the lead. I hated sharpening pencils, Wow. I hated sharpening pencils. So this pencil was with me throughout, from seventh grade on, maybe a little superstitious, I guess, maybe. But yeah, through high school, went with me to college, medical school, and I still have it with me, still works. But yeah, this is what I use for all those state championships. So I still have a little, few little things. Of course, those things.
Fantastic.
That red notebook I showed you that my dad put together for me, the medals. I had this other, Elements of Number Sense book. This was a real popular book back then.
I have that book.
Yeah, J.T. Cummings. He was a student at Azel. Azel was another great school, and Mr. Andy Zapata, another legendary coach. Yeah, and so I had that. Back several years ago, my mom made me take a bunch of stuff from home, awesome. And so yeah, I still have the calculator with me. Still works. Still very functional, taking good care of it.
Fantastic.
But it was just a labor of love. It was a passion of mine, and just all the thanks for my parents. My parents were the ones that, again, they started me on it. They're the ones that drove me, to all those competitions. There was times, like I said, to San Antonio and back by myself. I remember one time we were at a football game on a Friday night in Bruni, which is west of Hebronville. Game ends. We jump in the car, me and my best friend at the time. He also competed in calculator. We were freshmen, I believe, maybe eighth grade. It might have been as an eighth grader. And I remember jumping in the car after the game ended at 10 p.m. or so, and we drove all the way to San Antonio overnight, got a hotel room, slept for a few hours, and then competed on Saturday morning. And then, compete, get all the results, get back in the car, drive 3 hours back home, and only because my parents are the ones that put the effort and time. And a lot of times my dad, was working 7 days a week, and he, on Sundays, he had outside of being an educator, he also had a couple of businesses, and he would work a lot of the weekends. And so he was always working, but always willing, to put the time in for us, me, my two sisters, and my mom as well. My mom was always, there's a lot of times my dad couldn't make it because of work, whatever. My mom would drive us and take us there. She would get in there and grade papers with all the other coaches, and so it was a great experience. But my parents just were just right there every step of the way, and it was only because of them that I was able to accomplish those things, and it ends up helps being successful in life. You invest in your kids, right?
Right.
Doing the same things with my boys is you invest in their education because it's an investment for the future,
Absolutely.
And that's what they did, and they paid off, thankfully. And I did my best for it to pay off for them.
And look at the memories you have now. Look at all that memories that you have, and what their sacrifices, and so it's such a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure my UIL accomplishments was a big part. I got a full tuition scholarship to SMU. Wow. That's probably the main reason I went to SMU. It's a great school, but the main reason I was able to afford going there was I got a full tuition scholarship. And wow. I got to tell you, one of the biggest reasons I got a full tuition scholarship there was all my accomplishments in UIL. Wow. And so it paid off, and so it was a wonderful time in my life. If I could do it all over again, I would jump right in and do it all over again. So that's what I would tell all these kids: enjoy it. When you're young, you want to become older, right? You want to become an adult when you're young, and then when you're older, you want to become younger, right? Yeah. And so I would tell these kids, enjoy it, because you leave high school and go to college and enjoy college, because after college things just get the real world, right? Yes. And so enjoy those. Yeah. So enjoy those experiences and those relationships you build with people. There was a lot of relationships that I had through UIL, all those that I've mentioned to you, and some at San Ysidro, of course. And I want to mention also Mr. Antonio Lopez. He was our high school coach. Okay. I know Mike mentioned him on his interview, but he was my high school coach for those 4 years, and so I want to mention him because he also just put a lot of time and effort, after school practices, on the weekends. He was always there. So beautiful. I have to mention him as well. Beautiful. And so I was very fortunate. Just a lot of coaches started with my dad, then a lot of coaches throughout the years. And so I was very fortunate to have those experiences. And it was just a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful time. And so I'm very, very thankful for all those years.
Dr. Hilario Alvarado III, I feel your passion. I'm so happy you're able to share this. And, I'm sure it was fun to think about those old days and thinking about the good times. But I really believe your perspective will help to inspire future generations of kids. And I feel your passion. And UIL is such a beautiful thing.
I loved it.
That Marriott, I'm going to try to get a hotel room there March 18th or March 17th because they're having a Team SCA meet. Are you in San Antonio?
So is that still the host hotel?
I think they're going to be. I have to read the Team SCA newspaper, but I think it's going to be. I know for a while it was the Embassy Suites for a while, but now
it's right next. It's right next to it, and I pass by there every single day when I pick up my boys and come home. I pass right by there, think of that Marriott. I see that Marriott every day. I think about those Team SCA meets. But yes. Let's get together.
Yes. I'll be with probably with the Wisdom team, since I'm not taking my team. I'm in a new school. But the point is, I would love for you to. You got my number. I got your number. I'll give you a call, send you a text when we're there. Maybe you can just say hello, have a taco with us, something like that. It would be so awesome.
Yeah, no, I would love it. I would love it. And yeah, no, please hit me up when you come to town. I'll be here. Good. And I always, enjoy talking about those war stories, right?
Yeah, and if you're ever in Houston, man, mi casa su casa. You ever in Houston, drop me a line, man. Let's go get some food. Let's hang out, talk some UIL. I love your energy. I love your passion. It'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I was there for medical school. I loved Houston. Houston, it was a wonderful experience. The Baylor College of Medicine, just an amazing school. The Texas Medical Center, just some amazing experiences. Huge city, right? And so, I spent 4 years there. Kind of been everywhere, right? Dallas, Houston, and now in San Antonio. And so, I definitely will keep your info. And if I ever hit that way, I'll let you know.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Hey, you look at the archives, right? You see the Hilario Alvarado. I've seen it for many times. Peter Fuentes gave me your information. Peter Fuentes, also another legendary coach. He gave me your information. I'm so happy you did.
Well, I appreciate that. I haven't had the pleasure to meet Peter. I know Mike mentioned he had taught in San Ysidro for a year or two. And then, I saw the live stream you had with him last week or so. And so I haven't got the honor to meet him. And so hopefully, one day I'll get to meet him. I know he really, loves it as well and putting a lot of time into teaching the different students. Yeah, we didn't have, I was very fortunate to have all these wonderful coaches that were willing to coach me. Nowadays, you have all these, you can tutor on Zoom and, have all these resources, on YouTube and stuff. And so, a lot of students get taught outside of their school, and so that's pretty neat. So hopefully one day I'll get to meet Peter and yourself.
Hey, absolutely. Hopefully in March. Hopefully March 18th. That's the hope. All right, that's the plan.
I'm gonna remember. I'm gonna hold you up to it. I'm expecting a call. Okay.
Absolutely, it'll be my pleasure, man. It'll be my pleasure, man. So I really hope so. Hey, thanks for sharing such a beautiful part of your life with us. Thanks for sharing all this UIL insights. You were there. You were at the mountaintop, and that name in the archive now has a face, has a personality, has a character. I just want to thank you so very much.
And you're very welcome. You're very welcome. And thanks again for doing this. Thanks again for the time you're putting in for all these interviews and all these other different videos. I've enjoyed watching them. And this, I know kids are gonna really gain a lot from it, hopefully. And so hopefully, I'm sure the channel will grow. And no, it's great talking to you. And thanks again for reaching out.
Awesome. Hope to see you soon. You take care and farewell. Okay, buddy.
Sounds good. Be safe. Take care. Good luck.
Take care. Wow, what great energy from Dr. Hilario Alvarado III, 7-time UIL state champion, the years 1991 to 93. I really enjoyed his energy. I enjoyed his insights, and that was so great. Now, let me take a moment and ask you that if you enjoy this content, it would really help me out with the YouTube algorithm if you would hit the subscription button and the notification bell, smash that like button, and leave a comment below. I really appreciate your help. I got plenty of wonderful things in store for this channel. Thank you very, very much for your support. My name is Saul Cantu, and this is Texas Math Mundo. Farewell.